Shadows, the horror movie heroes, written by Clouds, read by Distracted by Books, Chapter 32, Morality. At some point, things in the dead room had turned into a giant movie night. There were piles of blankets strewn about the floor and a few bowls of popcorn that everyone had forgotten about as they sat, eyes glued to the screen as they watched Shadow's backup plans fail one by one by one. It was the most suspenseful thing that Elektra had ever seen, as over and over again, Midoriya had to scramble to come up with new plans on the fly and somehow make them work. Honestly, the most impressive part of the whole thing was that the kid hadn't given up yet. Elektra had known a lot of people, even a lot of heroes, who would have given up after the first or second failed plan. It was part of what made a hero's job doable, after all. Get a villain cornered enough and they'll turn themselves in or come quietly. It was the ones like Midoriya, though, that were the most terrifying, simply because they never gave up. When villains like him were cornered, they fought back. Everyone was so caught up in watching the screen that they hadn't noticed the door opening until a new voice gasped, "Wait, we get to watch ourselves die? Cool!" The whole room collectively jumped and whirled around to face the door. They'd all been so wrapped up in what was on the screen that no one had noticed three new bodies walk into the room. Elektra glanced back toward the screen, and sure enough, the three people in front of her were busy on screen, heading right into a trap that had obviously been successful if their presence here was any indication. The two villains immediately started weaving their way through the maze of blankets and couches, grinning as they seamlessly joined in with the group. The hero, however, hovered by the door. After a few minutes, some of the other dead hero students went to comfort her, and Elektra took a long last look at the screen before she joined them. She'd been taken completely by surprise when Shadows had killed her, and from the looks of it, this girl was pretty much in the same boat. Actually, now that she thought about it, most of them were. She gently put her arm around the kid's shoulder, just like she usually did when comforting the victim of a villain attack. "Hey, how are you feeling?" "Numb." The girl lifted her eyes to look at the screen. "And angry." It was the green kid, wasn't it? The kid with the shark's head snarled, "He's the one that killed me too." The girl shook her head. "I'm not mad about what he did, necessarily. I'm just mad that they believed him." She ignored everyone's confused looks, pushing past them to sit on the couch, and Elektra stared after her. Just what had Shadows done? They all turned their attention back to the screen, and the vibes in the room quickly turned from cozy movie night into a championship sports game as they watched Midoriya pull off the absolutely most insane plan they had ever seen. But no matter how much they screamed at the screen, the players still couldn't hear them. Half of the teachers' jaws were still on the floor as they watched their students lead one of the villains directly into their base of operations, all while the kids soaked up comfort and attention because of the death of a hero that he himself had killed. The students were going to have so many trust issues. There's gotta be something wrong with the kid, right? President Mike gestured toward the Midoriya on the screen. Like, psychologically, no normal kid would do something like that. Aizawa snorted, "You are severely underestimating normal kids." "Aizawa is correct." Nedzu set down his teacup. "All children are born with an innate sense of chaos and display an age-appropriate lack of empathy. What makes Midoriya's strategy so intriguing is not so much the questionable morality of his decisions, but rather the frightening intelligence he displays in even coming up with them. He was cornered and managed to find a way out. It's admirable." All Might nodded. "That being said, his plan relies entirely on deception, and I can't forgive that. A real hero faces his problems head on." "Oh, get off your high horse, Toshinori. The kid's not playing the part of a hero right now." Gran Torino smacked him over the head. "And even if he was, not everyone's strong enough to just punch away all their problems. Some people can't afford to rely on brute strength, unlike someone I know." All Might sputtered indignantly. Now, don't be so hard on him, Nezu tissed. However, let's not forget that Midoriya is at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to physical ability. Are we really sure the youngin's quirkless? Snipe asked. It seems like he's got to have an analysis quirk or intelligence or something. I have no reason to believe so, Nezu smiled. The human mind has frightening potentials. The teachers shuddered slightly at Nezu's excitement, and the room fell into silence as they watched their students gather around Midoriya, who was crying crocodile tears. How long do you think it'll take for them to figure it out? Ectoplasm asked. Well, assuming that the students leading him to their agency technically counts as capturing him, they have 24 hours, Midnight said. But they didn't intend to capture him, Recovery Girl pointed out. They don't even think he's a villain at this point. It seems like a tomorrow type of problem. Gran Torino laughed and laid back in his seat. I, for one, don't think it's going to take that long. All Might looked up in surprise. You really think they'll figure it out? Oh, no, Gran Torino laughed. I think that crazy kid is already plotting his next move. Izuku tried not to let his shock show as his eyes flicked around the room. He couldn't believe that the heroes had actually let him just walk into their agency. Sure, that had been the plan, but he hadn't really expected it to work, especially not after the string of failures earlier in the day. It was sheer dumb luck and determination that had gotten him this far, and he wasn't planning on letting this opportunity go to waste. He was currently seated in what looked like a briefing room, while all the hero students slowly trickled in one by one. Most of them were eyeing him with at least some level of distrust, but he could fix that. His brain was already coming up with 10 different lies and half-truths that he could use to cement their trust in him. None of them would last very long, of course, but he didn't need them to. His cover would be blown by tonight anyway. The last hero to enter the room was Miro Togata, the one who could phase through walls. It was a difficult quirk to combat, and Izuku wasn't quite sure how he was going to get around it yet, but he'd deal with that when he had to. For now, though, his biggest concern was playing the part of a poor, helpless snitch who had nothing left to hide. Nejire hurried to greet Mirio as soon as he walked in the door, and Izuku strained his ears to hear her whispering, "We found the snitch. He was running away from the villain when Yu tried to save him, but she didn't make it. The kid saw the whole thing, so just be careful with him, okay? He's still pretty shaken up." Izuku watched out of the corner of his eye as Mirio shot him a pitying glance and started whispering back, "He's the snitch? But he's just a kid." Nejire shrugged helplessly, and Mirio took a deep breath before smiling and walking over to kneel down in front of Izuku's chair. "Hey, kid, my name's Lemillion. My friend told me that you're the one I've been talking to the last couple of days." Izuku nodded, adding a sniff as he wiped his eyes and tried to look as small as possible. "I'm sorry if I've been annoying you. I was just trying to help." "Oh, don't cry." Mirio looked slightly panicked, but he kept up his hero smile, which Izuku could respect. "You really were helpful." "Helpful at leading us into traps," Ogawa cut in. "How can we believe a word you say?" "Hey!" Nejire shot him a dirty look. "Take some pity on the kid. Can't you see he's been through it?" Ogawa winced and looked a little sheepish, but the suspicion didn't leave his eyes. "I'm just saying that it seems kind of weird that he appeared out of nowhere right as all of our classmates started dying. And he's a kid? Doesn't anybody else think that things aren't quite adding up?" I think it's weird too." Amajiki was facing the wall and didn't turn around as he spoke. This whole thing is probably going to end really badly. We don't even know how he ended up with the villains." Izuku widened his eyes as he saw the perfect opportunity and let his lower lip quiver slightly before he burst into tears. As expected, the heroes around him started panicking, and both Mirio and Nejire rushed to comfort him. Amajiki tensed, his body shaking. What? What did I say? I'm sorry. Izuku gulped his next breath. I never wanted to be a villain. They they made me. Hey, it's okay. Mirio patted his shoulder awkwardly. You don't have to talk about it if you're not ready. No, you deserve to know. Izuku set his shoulders in an act of bravery. They pretended to care about me, and I really wanted to believe them because he paused before continuing, but it was nice, and I didn't want to lose that. I finally had adults who cared about me and didn't care that I was, well, I guess I just ignored it when the things they were asking me to do got worse and worse, and then I only ever wanted to help. So you just got in too deep? Mirio asked slowly. Izuku nodded piteously. Wait, you're seriously just going to believe that sob story? Ogawa said incredulously. He's obviously leaving out information. I'm not going to trust him until he actually tells us the full truth. Stop being so hard on him. Nejire hugged Izuku protectively. He's just a kid. It's okay. Izuku took a shuddering breath. He's right. You guys deserve the full truth. They were nice to me, but that's not the only reason I trusted them. I went along with them because they were strong and they promised to protect me because I'm too weak to defend myself. Izuku balled his hands into fists and spoke quietly. I'm quirkless. He let his eyes sweep across the room, and a weird sense of accomplishment blending in with the usual hurt as he saw their opinion of him turn on its head, just like it always did whenever he told anyone about his quirk. In an instant, their suspicion had turned into pity, and they saw him exactly how he wanted them to see him. Weak and defenseless. It was okay. Izuku reminded himself of that as the heroes exchanged awkward glances. It was all part of the plan. I'm sorry, Ogawa muttered, embarrassed. I didn't realize you were being manipulated. Why risk betraying them? Amajiki asked quietly. Well, I can't be a hero myself. So, Izuku wiped away his tears and gave a bright smile. I just want to help the heroes become better. It was almost too easy. I would say that I can't believe they bought that, but Mike grimaced. We kind of underestimated him too, didn't we? Aizawa groaned. It's a common fallacy. One that we are going to have to correct, Nedzu said. They believe he couldn't possibly pose a threat to them just because he doesn't have a quirk. They are about to be proven wrong. Yeah, I mean, most everyone who's died so far has been killed by one of the shadows, Midnight said. Oh, that reminds me. I made a chart. It's on the printer. She ran out of the room and came back a minute later with a giant roll of paper. She struggled to unroll it, and a few of the other teachers stood up to help her tack it to the wall, revealing a poster with all of the hero and villain photos. Once it was up, she grabbed a marker and started making X's over the faces of everyone who had died so far, circling the ones who had been arrested and adding tally marks along the side for the dead civilians. Then she stood back and let everyone take a good long look. Mike whistled lowly. Again, are we sure these kids aren't secretly mob bosses? They passed all our background checks, Nedzu said with a smile. They just managed to surprise us. Oh, I really can't wait to teach them. End of chapter.